Well, my wife and I have three daughters. We had one son. He was the third of the four children. And he was a good boy. And we loved him dearly. As my son matured, and as he began to work, and indeed to include his time in the Army, I got a sense that he was developing a very powerful shrewdness, an ability to see through pretense. I had a sense that applying that shrewdness, that deeper understanding of events, was something that he found very satisfying. Being able to see beneath the surface of events can enable you, could have enabled him, to make a real contribution, to make a difference. I think he was drawn to service. I sensed when he was working in state government that he found that very exciting. And my guess is that to the extent that he had a plan for his future life, his plan was going to involve service of some kind.
In June 2007, we heard the news that Lieutenant Bacevich had passed in Iraq, and Kirk Campbell in particular was very close with Dr. Bacevich, his father, and he thought it would be a fitting tribute for this new national security think tank that was sort of, that wanted to position itself as a place to groom the next generation of national security professionals, that a fellowship named in Lieutenant Bacevich's honor would be a fitting way to both honor his memory, but also to make sure that over the life of this new think tank, now 9 years old, that we continue to stay true to that founding mission.
This was a young man who was just beloved by everyone who served with him. And who had aspired to have a future career in public service in Washington. And we just felt that we wanted to honor him, and we wanted to do that by lifting up other young people who had that same commitment to courage and integrity and public service that Lieutenant Bacevich did.
So when I was awarded the Bacevich Fellow, the family had provided us this picture that we used for the first time it was awarded in June of 2007. And I felt that it was important for me as the first Bacevich Fellow to have that picture. And so that picture I printed out, I had it printed and I had it framed for myself to put on my desk. And that picture followed me, and it will follow me for the rest of my career. And for me, it's a constant reminder of what national security decisions mean, and the importance of getting it right, and the importance of not being flip and cavalier about weighing use of force decisions that can ultimately result in people losing their lives.
So I always had this idea that I wanted to come to CNAS, and the Bacevich Fellowship is part of that consideration. Junior researchers can move through the ranks and be able to engage in the policy conversation at a higher level during their time here. I get to work in a really collaborative environment where I'm constantly learning. This is like a whole new level of education. And also working in an environment where individuals, where young individuals, the next generation of national security leaders, are really fostered and developed and mentored.
Most think tanks try to fill their ranks with policymakers who have done their time and have left government. And what we're trying to do is bring up the next generation to go into government and to go into public service. And the Bacevich Fellowship is a key part of that, bringing in the next generation of national security leaders and training them, giving them both the expertise but also understanding the networks and how Washington works to be able to be effective in bringing those new ideas and putting them into practice in the real world.
The Bacevich Fellowship is one of the most important things that's ever happened to me, aside from being married and having a child. And I don't say that lightly. I say it more in terms of the values that it's instilled, in terms of what focuses my time and efforts and what really drives me. Not a week goes by where I don't look back at the times and experiences I had at CNAS and the experiences that were afforded to me by the Bacevich Fellowship. And without those, I know for a fact I wouldn't be where I am today. And I'm very proud of those accomplishments, but I'm also just gratefully honored and humbled by the opportunity to have served as a Bacevich Fellow during a very formative period in my professional life.
Bacevich Fellows have started to be present in all the different elements of statecraft, and I think what that means to me is that, you know, as a aggregate class of Bacevich Fellows, we are, you know, in our own little way, you know, living and having the careers that maybe Lieutenant Bacevich would have had, and so I'd like to think that that's a good fitting tribute to him.
You can imagine the very first time the award was given in June of 2007, we had the Bacevich family with us, and it was a very emotional event. I think everybody on the stage was in tears over the course of the ceremony, if you will. It's just been a wonderful honor for us to be able to use the Bacevich name to lift up these talented young people and help them launch their careers in public service.
The initiative for creating the fellowship in my son's name was entirely the work of CNAS. It wasn't something I suggested, it wasn't something I would have dared to suggest. But I can tell you that my family was deeply touched at this remembrance of our son, my son, and that we remain grateful for what CNAS has done.